Welcome to Two Crazy Scoops Podcast with your hosts Ayo and Antino. This week we got a special guest. Jermaine Devon Walker is going to talk to us about being a world traveler, a photographer, and a chemist, question mark? Tune in to find out about that and more. Hi, and welcome to Two Crazy Scoops Podcast. Today it's just going to be Antino. Again, Aaron's still working hard, or hardly working, I don't know, we gotta ask him. But he will be back. But today we have, and I gotta clear this up before we start. Do I call you Jermaine or do I call you Devon?
I prefer to be called Devon, honestly. But they're both my names, so yeah, let's go with Devon.
Devon Walker. Sorry. It still baffles me because I think of you as Jermaine, but then how is it having two personas then?
You know, it's funny because really the only place I'm called Jermaine is in Tucson.
Oh.
When I lived in Phoenix, everyone called me Devon. In Fort Worth, they call me Devon. In Dallas, they call me Devon. In Africa, they call me Devon. So... but you know, the Jermaine is the name my mother gave me at birth as my first name. So because my family is there, that's really where most people call me Jermaine.
Nice. So Devon, it's gonna be really weird. When we were on the call earlier, I think I called you Jermaine, and people were kind of looking at me like, "Yeah, okay." But so the chemist part. The chemist part. We both have some coffee right now that we're drinking. I am drinking Cafe Bustelo out of a French press. And I think we missed the good part of the show, which we couldn't show on the podcast, which was you making this coffee.
Yeah, so what I'm drinking is actually an espresso roast from a brewery, a coffee brewer in Austin, Texas called Fat Cats. So I bought some beans from them the last time I was there. So I just grind them up and made them in kind of like a pour over Chemex type of coffee maker. And then frothed some oat milk, mix it up on top. Nice cup of joe.
So what's the benefit of the Chemex then, as opposed to just your traditional coffee roaster that you got in your house?
As I pour my next cup, I think it's lighter to me. I think because you use a filter. The filter I use is cloth. It's a lighter brew because the water just kind of pours over the coffee and then drips right into the base of the Chemex vase type of thing. So the water doesn't sit in the coffee. Like I like a French press too, and I also use that. But when you use a French press, the water is sitting in the coffee the whole time. So it tends to be kind of a little bolder than a pour over, in my opinion.
Does that affect the acidity at all?
Yes, it does. I'm not quite.
You can just spit out facts on this show. We just make
up
stuff,
I don't,
and then people tell me I'm wrong later.
It does affect the acidity, but I don't know exactly how. I know a lot of that is affected in the roast. Like a lot of times, I know the way you roast the beans will affect the acidity level. And people probably tend to think that the darker roasts are more acidic, but that's not actually true. So the longer you roast beans, the oils come out and it's actually less acidic that way. But it is bolder and smokier.
Yeah, I moved from a just your traditional coffee machine to a French press, and I find I'm a little more jittery with the French press. And I looked it up, and I think it gets a little more of oomph, I guess you could say, out of your coffee. least it feels like
Yeah, and
that.
I think that's why, because your coffee grounds are sitting in the water the whole time. I mean, they're pressed to the bottom, so even down to your last drop, it's a little bit more concentrated than it would be if you just pour. Even a traditional coffee maker just pours water over the coffee grounds into your cup.
Yeah. So I think we're going to start out with coffee because on your photography, do you think how do you think coffee and photography go hand in hand?
They do for me because, yeah, you know, both have always been in my life, but not really a passion, I would say, until January when I went to Tanzania.
Of this year.
And yeah, January, before the portion of 2020 that was actually good. I went to Tanzania in January, and anytime I go to a place like Tanzania, you know, the love for photography comes back strong.
Uh-huh.
But I was able to go to a coffee lounge, a coffee farm and coffee lounge resort type of thing up in the mountains of Mbeya, Tanzania. And I've always liked coffee, but was never really in love with it. But after that experience and having some really good coffee, I came back kind of obsessed with it. So that and photography have been what's gotten me through 2020
Nice.
and the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, I didn't really know you were. Yeah, I don't remember you being that into coffee, but I always remember you having a camera with you. I think you bought. I don't know. You bought a really expensive camera at one time, and I was like having fun messing around with it when we went camping one time a while ago. But you could like take the screen and like lift it off of the camera a little bit. Because I was like putting it up close to water, which I probably shouldn't be doing, and taking a video. But
Yeah, you showed our age there because like every camera has that now.
Oh.
You know, honestly, yeah, like every good camera right now has a screen that flips around so you can see yourself for vlogging.
Oh.
So that screen was 2010 or 11.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
It was a breakthrough in science, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Was that the beginning of your photography, or had you done it before?
It was the beginning of having a real camera. Photography is something that's really in everybody's life, whether you're the subject or you're behind the camera. Pictures have captured moments in our lives from the beginning. So, like, my earliest memories of photography were not really good. As a African American kid, I remember my mom being really mad about school pictures because I would never be properly exposed. I'm talking about light exposure.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not really that dark skinned, but if the photographer didn't know what they were doing, and you for one, if you put an African American kid in the back row in the corner, and then you don't have proper lighting on him, and then you take a picture, then he's going to look really dark, or you're not going to really be able to see any of his features. And so I remember my mom getting school pictures and being furious about the fact that I either was too dark, or I don't want to say you couldn't see me, but you couldn't see me clearly because the photographer didn't properly expose all the subjects in the picture. So that's kind of what I remember, my earliest recollection of something having to do with photography. After that, it's like I don't recall really ever having a good camera until me and my wife went to Tanzania. Before, it was just like you use whatever you have.
Mm-hmm.
But that was probably the first real camera I bought in 2011.
What was it about Tanzania that kind of brought that out of you, I guess?
Well, you know, when you're going to travel across the globe, you want to document it. It was a trip of a lifetime. We never thought we might have the opportunity to return. Um, we didn't have any plans when we went there, actually, other than our purpose was to share in some missionary work. But we didn't plan on going on safari or going to see the coast or islands or any of that. We did get to do all of those things. So we bought a camera just to be able to take decent pictures because we weren't going to travel to Africa and use our cell phone, especially in 2011. Maybe now today you could get away with using your cell phone, but in 2011, if you're taking your cell phone on a safari, you're wasting your time. So
I don't even like. Were Blackberries a thing then?
yeah, I actually had a BlackBerry that year,
Okay.
and I think yeah, because my BlackBerry was actually a global version. So I remember taking my BlackBerry with me in case I needed to use it, but I had switched, I think, to some Android phone. I don't remember which one it was back then.
Yeah, it's just funny to like think about how the transition from flip phones, and then they kind of had like weirder flip phones where you flip them up and down, and then now we got the smartphones and stuff. But the interesting thing, like you were saying, like you could probably take your iPhone on you to Safari and get somewhat, if you just want memories, you're not going to take like high resolution stuff, but you get some pretty good images or videos with that, especially the videos. Now you can like record in 4K off of your phone.
Yeah.
So when you were getting, oh, sorry, what?
No, I'd say you still have to be pretty close. I mean, you're not gonna. Some of the phones today are advertising like 20 times zoom, but I mean, you're not gonna be trying to get a lion or something that's 100 yards away, zoomed in on your phone and expecting something epic.
Yeah. So then when you were getting into photography, though, it was more of a hobby, like you were saying, but do you think like a lot of people were into it back then, or do you think that was kind of the boom of like it kind of starting up? Because I know like today, pretty much everyone's a photographer.
Yeah, everyone today is a photographer, a food photographer, a personal selfie photographer.
Well, I mean,
what do they call it when you're out in the streets is photojournalism. Everybody is that. Yeah.
I just remember it was funny. My sister had a digital camera, and she would take selfies of herself with that. And to get that was very difficult because you're just holding a camera without seeing a screen. But I mean, girls were doing that before you could even see yourself, which is funny to me. But
yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. So with the like social media and everything like that, when do you think you kind of saw more people becoming a photographer? Like today, I think everyone's got a photo account at least at one point in their life.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. I think it really had to be the birth of Instagram, because I was thinking of social media before that, like MySpace and the early days of Facebook. I don't really remember people posting too many pictures of themselves or documenting things. Maybe they did. I don't remember. But when Instagram came out, then social media was really about capturing pictures and sharing it. And now it's changing again. It's more so even Instagram is changing into videos, TikTok and all that stuff is becoming more popular. But I think that it has allowed a lot of people to explore photography better because there are some really good photographers. So
we're back. Sorry, we had to take a quick break because of noise pollution. One of the greatest things in life.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just saying there's a lot of really good photographers on Instagram. social media has actually helped me as well, kind of explore different things.
Uh-huh.
Because a lot of people might think of photography just about like either you're traveling or you're taking pictures of food or you're doing portraits. But through Instagram and YouTube, I kind of stumbled upon street photography. And that has really helped me during the pandemic because, of course, right now I'm not trying to meet up with people and be in close contact doing portraits and weddings and stuff that normal photographers do to get started. Most people start with weddings and portraits, but street photography has been interesting.
Yeah, and you're in Fort Worth, so is that a good place to do street photography? Or do you kind of have to go to Dallas?
It is and it isn't. Like, there's interesting stuff in Fort Worth and Arlington, but they're much smaller cities size-wise. So it's like I've done those cities already. Dallas I find to be more interesting. But it depends. I mean, people change. If your focus is on capturing people, then you're never going to see the same people in these cities. But as far as like capturing buildings in certain locations, I've felt like I've done downtown Fort Worth.
Yeah.
But I like it during the pandemic from the standpoint that I can still practice social distancing. I can also get exercise because sometimes I just go for a walk downtown and just take my camera with me and capture what I capture.
How many pictures do you think you keep out of the ones that you take?
Typically when I go out, I'm usually out for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I probably come back with maybe 3 pictures that are post worthy and maybe 1 that's really good. Sometimes I get nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing kind of in Tucson. It's like, I think for you, I think street photography is more about expansive areas. And then Tucson, it's more about focusing in on the little things here. Because you have a lot of flowers, you have a lot of like little animals, lizards, spiders sometimes.
That spider that you're talking about, is it the black and white one?
Which one?
So there's a I forget what it's actually called, but there's a spider that I posted on social media, on Instagram, that its web has like a zipper. It has like a zipper design. And that was actually in my backyard, in my COVID garden.
Oh, really?
With my tomatoes. So that I got that picture from there. That's a pretty interesting spider, though. I can't remember what it's called, but supposedly they're harmless. I'm not getting closer than the picture to find out. But it's pretty cool. The zebra type of design from their web.
I've been doing a lot of window cleaning in houses where they're selling it or they rent them out so no one lives in them for a long time. And the critters you find running around in there sometimes. There was I think it's a brown recluse.
Yeah.
And it was on the ceiling. And so I walked in and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, hey, Anna, look at the floor, look it. And she was like looking at the floor, and then I slowly pointed up. And when she saw it, she jumped back too, because those things are like, it was huge.
Wow. Yeah, those things are dangerous.
Yeah.
I've seen what bites from those things do to people.
Yeah, it's no bueno. But when you were in Tanzania, then what kind of photography were you doing there, I guess? What were you focusing in on?
So then I was really focusing on just capturing memories and places that we went to. It's kind of frustrating because now that I'm really into photography, I think about all the awesome places I went to and either didn't bring my camera or didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like I've been able to go to places like I've been to Mexico and Nicaragua, Germany, Switzerland, Rome, of course, even New York City, Tanzania. It's like so many wonderful opportunities that were missed that either I didn't have a camera or didn't know what I was doing with it.
Yeah. I think it's the same with me. Like, I still don't really know what I'm doing with it, and you just have a lot of missed opportunities because I see some of the pictures of stars that people take. Have you ever done any of that?
Yeah. I had a post on Instagram of the moon that I took, and I really like sharing that picture because I think it helps people to see that photography doesn't have to be expensive. The lens that I used to take a picture of the moon was $38.
Is it this one?
No.
You got a lot of pictures of the moon. Oh, this one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I bought, that one.
It's funny you say that because come to think about it, you were the first person I knew who bought a lens for their phone.
I did buy a lens.
You had a camera lens. It was magnetic and it went on your phone.
Are you sure it was me?
I'm pretty sure it was you because I was like, what is that?
I don't remember that.
But you're talking about getting a lens for the camera that was $38.
Yeah. Yep. $38. And it's 500 millimeter f1.8 lens. It's pretty long, but the nice thing about cameras today is that most of these cameras you can just buy an adapter. So it's not my camera is Sony. I shoot with Sony, but I have different brands of lenses. So this was like a Samyang lens that I just bought off Amazon, like a $10 or $15 adapter. So you have to shoot manual, which is not that hard. And I encourage people, your listeners, to shoot manual.
I do shoot manual, if anything. I know how to do that much.
Manual. It's not that difficult, but it makes your pictures, it gives you more control, honestly, instead of allowing your automatic camera to determine what you're trying to do. So if you shoot manual, you can shoot with any lens, because then, like for my camera, like I said, I just buy adapters, which if you buy an adapter, the camera can't read the lens. So you can't use, what is it called? Autofocus. You have to focus yourself manually.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the more you practice, the faster you get at it, and you don't need to shoot.
What are some resources you would recommend for learning how to work your cameras, I guess? Because I honestly, sometimes I think I turn the autofocus off and then it keeps going on and the flash turns on and I'm just like trying to figure out how to just take a picture without everything going off.
Practice, really. Practice and practice in the worst conditions. That's what's helped me. Like I've done street photography at night, which it's harder. You know, you don't have light. You're not going to use flash if you're doing street photography because you don't want to draw attention to yourself. You're trying to capture people in the moment of whatever's going on in their life. With that, not, you know, some people have their feelings about it, like you're spying on somebody. But in reality, if you're just trying to capture the moment, and usually when I shoot street photography, I'm far enough from where I'm not invading anyone's privacy or anything. If you can't tell who they are. It's a person walking down the street. It's more so about timing and location and composition.
Yeah.
Than anything.
For me, it was only one day that I did it I walked from Brooklyn. I took a train to Manhattan, and then I just stopped taking pictures at that point once I got back to Brooklyn. But I left probably around like 5 in the morning, and I was just taking pictures the whole way around. And it's just like interesting the things you pick up in a city, like the graffiti. I wouldn't really call it graffiti. I don't know if it's called street art, but some of that stuff's pretty cool.
Yeah. I've posted some stuff too. You might have seen on my
Yeah, I
Instagram.
saw the one of the lady. Let me see.
Anyway, shameless plug. My Instagram is Pics by J Devon on
Yes.
Instagram at Pics by JDEVON.
And you can see all of this great. This is the one.
Yes, that's actually the screensaver on my computer right now.
Yeah, that was just like. Was that something that you would normally come across, or was it something that you came across because you were just walking?
That's something I came across driving. I was driving from Dallas back to Fort Worth, and I saw this wall. It's probably like 150 yards long, and each section of the wall is like a different artist. And it's like a random complex, the backside of the complex. And yeah, I turned down there, and there was there's such amazing stuff that people have done on this wall. But that one is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's so like crisp. It was.
There's another one on that same wall. It might be actually right before that picture. There's one of 2 X-Men characters. And then there's another one of a rhino, and that's my favorite animal. So it was some pretty dope stuff up there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because there's a lot of artwork here in Tucson too, that they're kind of springing up all over the place. But yeah, so it's interesting. And then another one of the pictures I wanted to talk about that was on your Instagram was the woman in Tanzania with a machete.
Yeah, so that picture, this is another one. Like, I'm happy that it came out as good as it did, but if I knew what I was doing,
It could have gotten better.
it would have been better.
Oh,
Because I'm actually, the nice thing about that, which I have to give a shout out to Sony for that, because I was actually in a moving vehicle. We were driving through the mountains, and we turned a corner, and there was a donkey that's sitting in the grass, like on the edge of the mountains. That's what I took out my camera for, and I got the picture of that donkey, and then I saw this lady running, and I took a picture of her. And that's why if you look closely, you can see like the grass is kind of blurred because I'm moving, but it captured her pretty clearly. Not the most sharp picture ever, but even I didn't realize until I put it on my computer that she had a machete in her hand.
I didn't either. I saw it and then I read your caption and I was like, holy, she is holding a machete. And it's a pretty good size one too. But obviously, I mean, they would use that.
She's running with it. And it's rusty. But yeah, it's a pretty nice picture.
Yeah. Well, the area looks really interesting as well with all the fog and stuff.
Yeah, this is in the mountains of Mbeya, Tanzania, which is Mbeya is close to Mozambique, so it's like southern Tanzania.
So, do you sell prints of your photographs?
I haven't yet, but I'd like to. I think that some of the places that I've been able to go to have such amazing scenery that was impossible to take a bad picture.
Yeah.
Like in 2011, I took pictures on the beach in Zanzibar and on safari and the Ngorongoro crater. Mm-hmm. And they're still my most favorite pictures. And I had no idea what I was doing. I just pointed a camera at God's creation and hit the shutter button.
I'm not trying to discredit anyone for their photography, but I do clean a lot of windows and people who've gone on safaris. Or I didn't know it. I was just like, wow, you guys have a lot of really cool pictures. Oh, yeah, my husband took that when we went to so-and-so place last year or so-and-so place 5 years ago. And just the area is so beautiful that to capture a photo of it is like fairly easy. The ones that I really get impressed of is like birds. people taking pictures of birds in flight. Have you
Yeah.
ever taken one like that?
I have. It's kind of hard because they're moving, and they're of course not. They're a good distance away. So I don't have anything that's really great, but I do have some that are pretty nice.
And then how do you feel about editing, like color editing?
Um, in my opinion, sometimes it's necessary. I don't have any negative feelings about it because sometimes the sun washes out colors because like Tanzania is very green and lush and beautiful. And sometimes, like when I came back the first time, I remember looking at these pictures like this does not reflect what I actually saw.
Mm.
Now that I know a little bit more about photography, I know, okay, the sun kind of washed out the colors. So enhancing it and returning it to what it was, I think I think it's okay to do that. Um, some people can take stuff like Photoshop way too far, but
Yeah,
if
I
you're
think
returning something, restoring it to what it looked like, then yeah, I've got no problem with editing.
because that's an art in itself sometimes. A lot
Yeah.
of the photographs you see of even like wedding photos is a lot of nicely done editing to where it looks like what you said, like how you see it, not so much as what the camera picked up per se.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to your experience as a photographer because um, if I knew what I was doing when I took some of those pictures the first time in Tanzania, I could have adjusted in camera um, my settings to capture what it really looked like instead of having to do it in post. But I'm happy to be able to do it in post and make it look like what it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm. So it says that you do photo shoots on your website?
Well,
Not anymore,
I
but
do.
before.
Well, the only model I've had really has been my wife. And that's mostly because of COVID. I had a little bit of opportunity to help out recently, like 2 weeks ago, with a wedding. It was a Zoom wedding, and I was really there just to help set up the Zoom and have it have the wedding broadcast on over Zoom. But because I was there, I took full advantage of an opportunity to take pictures. So I was kind of like a backup backup photographer for this wedding, and yeah, it was a nice experience to actually shoot live people that know you're taking their picture. Because I don't have a ton of experience with that due to the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that's the most nerve-wracking for me is photoing people.
Yeah, I like it. I don't like giving people a lot of direction on how to pose.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the other nice thing about it, is because they had a main photographer and most of the pictures I took were all the candid stuff when no one knew. They're just living their life and enjoying being in the moment.
Yeah.
So, and I think those are some of the best photos, in my opinion, when people are just in the moment instead of posing
Yeah.
and creating kind of a fake moment. And that's what I like about street photography too. There's a couple people I watch on YouTube, some of their videos, and they kind of do, it's more, in my opinion, it's more like street portraitures, because they ask people if they can take their photos
Mm-hmm.
and they pose them in the streets. And they're nice pictures, don't get me wrong, but it's not, to me, it's not completely authentic street photography because the person is posing and following your cues and whatever. But if you catch someone just living their life, to me, it tells a story. It tells two stories, actually, in my opinion. There's the story of what's really happening and the story that the viewer makes up in their mind.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I like about it. It's a way to express yourself. And just like art, just like someone painting something, the viewer makes up in their mind what's really taking place.
Yeah, and that perception is something that's really interesting just throughout all of life. Because like you said, it kind of teaches you that not everyone thinks what you think is going on. Like you may think this person's suffering, but they're just like really tired. But you're like, hey, I relate to this picture.
Yeah.
That's interesting. There's actually a painting. It's called Christina's World. And it's a woman who's laying in a field. And I thought it was interesting. And then I saw it in a friend of mine's house. And I was like, this is an amazing, like, painting. And she's like, yeah, well, the lady's crippled and she can only drag herself this far away from her house. That's why it's called Christina's World. And I was like, wow, that's like really depressing. So I thought she was just relaxing in a field, but yeah, it was a little worse than that.
Yeah.
Are there some photographers that you look at then and you like their work, or certain photographs that kind of stick out to you?
I can't think of any photograph in particular. If anyone is interested in street photography, there is a photographer I watch on Instagram and YouTube, mostly his YouTube videos. His name is Pierre Lambert. He's based out of Chicago. He's a French guy. He's very charismatic and talks to people and is very outgoing, which is like the opposite of me. But his stuff is really good. He makes me want to go to Chicago, but he tells interesting stories, and he does kind of a mixture of both. Some of it could be simple as someone crossing the street, and sometimes he talks to people and has them pose and stuff like that. But so I like both aspects of street photography that he does. But to me, I like using the city as the backdrop and people just going about their business.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm checking that. There's a lot of, I don't know, these kind of accounts always overwhelm me though, because I'm just like, man, like my pictures stink.
But you know, practice. I mean, I know that you're really into music, and you know, just like learning to play the guitar and stuff like that. It's like you pick one up and you're like, man, I suck. But the more and more you practice, the better and better you get. And you know,
well, we're going to talk about this now, because I don't know if you know this, but on this podcast I call people out about stuff from the past. And you know, I like to brag a lot. Well, I tell people, I say, I've taught a lot of people to play guitar, but everyone that I've taught has quit. And so I just was wondering, why did you quit playing bass? We could have had a band, Jermaine. We could have been something.
First, it's Devon.
Devon.
No. Why did I quit the bass? I think mostly because I didn't have the time. I think you would agree that it's easier to practice playing guitar by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Playing bass is a little challenging to do by yourself. Mm-hmm. And the person who wanted me to be in a band was so all over the place. He had a new band every 5 minutes, different names. Still waiting on Space Diver to happen. So, yeah, it was a period in my life where I just didn't really have time to focus on something like that. Like if I had it now, it would be completely different. And that's why I think I've really gotten into coffee and photography, because right now the pandemic has slowed life down to where it's like, okay, now I have time to watch YouTube videos and learn about stuff.
Yeah.
I have time to go take an hour walk downtown. I didn't have that time before. The other thing, just to go back to photography, that I really liked about the exposure that it's given me is that I've had to make time, because photography is so much about light. So waking up, like the other day, I woke up at like 4:30 in the morning. Um, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go do a little nighttime street photography. I wouldn't recommend this to everybody, but you need to be careful. I went out and I did a little nighttime photography right before blue light, which most people know about golden hour, but the blue hour is right before golden hour, like when the sun starts to. It's just before it hits the horizon. It's, I think they call it twilight as well, but it's like you get a lot of nice blue color in that 30-minute window before golden hour starts. And then during that hour of golden hour, I was like, by that time, I'll already be in Dallas. And so there's a picture I posted the other day of this bridge in Dallas. I shot it from one bridge. I was on one bridge, took a picture of another bridge. But it was, yeah, that's the one. So, lost my train of thought. But anyway.
You're talking about blue light?
Yeah, so blue light is something I want to experience more, but the exposure that I've had to different natural lights has been pretty cool. But I've made time for it. I think that's what the point I was trying to get at, is that photography is a hobby that's caused me to make time for it, because otherwise I wouldn't have gotten up and left the house that early. But it's like, okay, I want to make time because I only have this period of time.
Yeah.
I've got 30 minutes of blue light and I got an hour of golden hour, and then the sun's going to be up and it's going to be more of a harsh light. So let me go to Dallas and take some pictures during this period of time. And so I get that done. I've expressed or exercised my creative thinking, going out. There's less people out, hardly anybody out really. My creative juices are flowing. And then I come home and I've got the rest of the day. Because I've already taken care of that desire to, to be creative and to work on my hobby. And so I just like being able to practice doing different things. Another interesting thing I got to do, I'll touch on this real quick, is there was a friend of mine introduced me through social media to a missionary who was actually serving in Cambodia. Her and her husband were travel photographers. That was their occupation before they went into missionary work. And so because they can't travel now due to the pandemic, they started doing online photography classes. So I took one of her classes, and it was interesting. It was more so for beginners. I'm still a beginner, but most of it was kind of stuff I already knew. But it's nice how photography is a global thing, and everybody in nearly every country has a camera and just amazing things that they can take pictures of. So I just encourage everybody to go out, take pictures, practice, just shoot stuff. Because even now I look back at stuff that I took long time ago, and it's like, wow, some of this was actually good, but it's not like I planned it. I just was taking pictures of everything, and some of it was good and most of it wasn't.
I think what you're talking about then is, it's like if you just take pictures and they don't come out good, there's a lot of things that you can do to help yourself. Like you said, choosing the right time of day, choosing the right equipment to use, kind of knowing like what you're doing. But I didn't know that there was so much that you could kind of control in order to make a good photo shoot session, so to speak.
Yeah, and then also don't delete stuff. Don't delete stuff, because now I look back at stuff that I thought it was horrible 2 years ago. But now that I know how to edit and change things, like maybe maybe colors were washed out because of the sun, but
Mm-hmm.
with light tweaking and um, whatever program you use, Snapseed from Google is a free photo editing software that you can use. It's only available on mobile devices, but that works really well. I use Lightroom. Capture One is another program that people use to edit photos, but you go through your old photos and maybe you just need to adjust the exposure or brighten things up a little bit, and you might have some really good photos that
And
you're sitting
how do you
on.
transfer your photos to keep the resolution? How do you do that?
Well, I use Lightroom, so I upload all of my pictures. I shoot in both RAW and JPEG. Um, only reason I use JPEG is to be able to share them on Instagram or send them to people. But if you shoot in RAW, it gives you it keeps more of the quality of the photo and allows you more freedom in your editing. But I upload straight from my camera using a Sony app, and then I just import them into Lightroom.
Oh, does your camera connect to Wi-Fi?
It does.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, that's another thing that was like new back then too. I was like, my camera has Wi-Fi now.
Yeah, and you know what's really nice about that is that my camera, and I think most cameras, I know Canon does and Nikon, they have apps where you could basically connect your phone to your Wi-Fi and then use your phone as a separate monitor to view what your camera is viewing, and actually I can
Oh,
take pictures from my phone.
wow.
So like I've taken a few group pictures that I was in where I just connect my phone to my camera, and then I'm in the group picture, maybe like behind my wife's back or something. I have my phone and I could just click the button instead of setting a timer and running over there and getting in the shot. I could just control it from my phone.
Photography Olympics right there.
Yeah, those are the days we used to have to do that. Put a 10-second timer, then run and try to pose yourself in the picture, but not anymore.
I did it one time for a group photo for a class that we did. We took a group photo and one of the brothers ran, and then the other brothers ran, and then I edited him into the picture. So you can kind of tell, but you can't really tell that he was like cut out and put into that.
Yeah. But it's nice. I think that because everybody is a photographer, if people just start experiencing more, experimenting more, that they can find things that they like to do. One thing I found out recently that I started doing on my Instagram was how to post those seamless pictures. You've probably seen I have a couple of those seamless Instagram posts. I just think it's fun. It's something that's interesting to do. Where you can do a continuous swipe of the picture and it's not like cut off.
Oh yeah, you did the one of the food truck.
Yeah.
That made me hungry.
But it's nothing that is like earth shattering or that I'm going to make a ton of money off of, but it's just something that's interesting to do right now during the pandemic. It's like, oh, let's see how I can share this picture in a different way than I normally would.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I do with the podcast. It's just something fun to pass the time and learn a little bit about what people do.
Yeah.
You told me you weren't a professional, but you
I'm
know
not.
a lot more than what I do. And actually, now I know. Like I said, I woke up like at 5 in the morning and was walking down in New York, and then some pictures came out really, really good that day because of the morning, I guess. I didn't realize that was why.
Yeah, the hour before the sun comes up and the hour before it goes down, twice a day, you have golden hour. So sunrise and sunset. And it's nice because the lighting from the sun is not as harsh because it's lower. And then it also creates, of course, being in Arizona, the sunsets. So the sky has amazing colors, and everything that's on the ground has great shadows.
Yeah.
So there's so much detail that you could get during that period of time. So a lot of photographers that won't even shoot unless it's golden hour.
Oh.
I mean, not even going outside unless it's golden hour. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Interesting.
yesterday we were working out in Oro Valley and the sun was setting in the purple mountains here. It's always cool to take pictures of. I was working though, so I couldn't really take it. But I mean, I could have, but the homeowner. No one's ever said anything to me, but sometimes I'm out there like with my camera taking pictures of little bugs and stuff. Which probably looks weird, but
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the only thing that I have to get over, is that feeling of looking weird. And so if anybody has ever done street photography or thought about it, you probably have that in your subconscious about looking weird and people looking at you and why is this guy taking pictures of this and that and what is he doing. It's been a little challenging. That's why I like going downtown where there's so many people and you don't feel as awkward as you would like the city that I live in now. It would probably be viewed as kind of weird for me to walk down the street and just start taking pictures of stuff and people doing things. But in a downtown setting, it's not that bad. But one piece of advice I got from a YouTuber was to just act like a tourist. Because when you go on vacation, you're not worried about what people are thinking. You're just taking pictures of everything.
yeah.
And so it's like when you go, even if it's your own town, just go down there, take your camera, and think and act like a tourist. And you'll get great shots. You won't be concerned about people. Especially nowadays, most of us live in big cities where you're not going to run into these people ever again in your life. And if you do, you're not going to remember. So stop worrying about them.
Famous last words. No.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I think that I was trying to do that, think like a tourist, but more so for the food in this area. Because we would go places and I'd be like, how come I'm not like trying more stuff in Tucson? And then the pandemic hit and I was like, oh. But, oh well. Interesting. Well, will that pretty much wrap it up, you think, for the photography stuff?
I think so.
Oh, okay. You got to plug your website, plug your Instagram, plug your social security card number.
So as I said, my Instagram is at Pics, Pics by JDEVON, Pics by J Devon. And on the Instagram, you'll see a link to my online portfolio, which is just some more pictures that I have there on an Adobe portfolio that people could check out. I encourage people to just get out and use their camera, document things. You think about this pandemic we're going through right now, where hopefully we'll look back on this 10, 15, 20 years from now and start thinking about what happened, what was I doing. So some of the pictures that I've taken, I haven't posted a lot of them. It's just kind of also a documentation of 2020 and what's gone on this year. I mean, it's interesting now to see people wearing masks in certain environments and certain places. You know, and some of the street photography I've done, you got people wearing masks, signs about social distancing, stuff like that, that I've taken pictures of just kind of as a photojournalism type of thing, just to kind of remember this crazy time that we're living in and what's gone on. But there's, you know, of course, a need to be safe. Everybody needs to be safe with what they're doing, because there are things that you don't want to be involved in that could potentially put you at danger. Like if you're going out at night and you're taking a camera, you need to be aware of your surroundings and you need to let people know where you're going and what you're doing. Also, there's people that want to get close to documenting things like protest.
Yeah.
You got to be really careful with that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's smart to avoid it, in my opinion, if you possibly can. Sometimes you can't. sometimes you don't know what's going on if you're not connected to that stuff.
Yeah.
And most people aren't unless they're planning on being involved.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was one time I was taking pictures downtown Fort Worth, and I heard a lot of commotion, and then there was a lot of people protesting down the street.
Oh, wow.
So I got out of there as quickly as possible just because I don't want to be involved in it. But yeah, there's definitely a need for people to be careful. People also have to deal with confrontation sometimes if somebody feels offended that you're taking pictures. I haven't had that experience personally because I try to be discreet in doing it. But the last thing I wanted to talk about was product photography.
Oh yeah, I saw you did like you had some for coffees, some for beer, some for a DJ machine. I like the DJ one.
Yeah, so that was actually at that wedding. I was like helping set up, and I was like, well, let me just take some stock photography. You know, there's people that pay. That's how a lot of people start making money, is off of stock photography. There's actually a YouTube photographer many people have heard of. His name is Peter McKinnon. I was listening to Peter McKinnon one day, and he was talking about how he got started making money as a photographer. And what he would do is he would go to like an open house of homes, and he would run in and take as many pictures as he can, and then he would just upload those pictures to stock photography websites, and people would buy them.
Wow.
So yeah, that's an idea. But I've gone to a lot of coffee shops. I actually have I know I'm going to sound like one of those weird people that has 100 Instagrams. But I actually have a completely separate Instagram about coffee.
Is your name Jermaine on that one at least?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's Coffee Drip Bean. It's just a tour. When I go out, as we're running errands or whatever, I go to different coffee shops in Dallas. I just like tasting coffee from different places. Different places have used different roasters, and so I just started documenting. You know,
you have more followers on this account than I do for my business one.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people follow that account. And it's just basically me posting cups of coffee in different shops. But like, I have a friend who works for a salon, a spa, a day spa. And I manage their social media. That's kind of something that's happened through my use of photography. And this coffee has more followers than than that spa. And from my personal photography, that's why I have to plug Pics by J. Devon, because nobody's following it. But
forget that. Follow the coffee drip bean. That's your calling.
Coffee. Yeah. But so many, like, it's just interesting. Product photography, you start taking pictures of cups of coffee. A lot of these coffee shops will repost my pics, which has led to more followers. Not that I'm after followers and likes. That's not why I'm doing it. But it's nice. I mean, if you enjoy something, if you like a particular place that you go to, or a brand of coffee, or you got some new shoes that you like, I mean, make an interesting picture about it, post it, tag it, share it. I mean, if that's what you want to do. If not, continue going about your life, whatever. But I mean, I just like it because my wife and I, we would write Google reviews about places that we've gone to, especially because we're also vegan. So we would share stuff just to inform other people, oh, you can eat this here and whatever. So that's kind of how I got started into sharing experiences of eating out and drinking coffee in different places. So then I originally on my personal Instagram started posting a lot of stuff about coffee, and I was like, I'm gonna get out.
A little carried away with it. So, people were like, okay.
Yeah, so that's why I created a completely separate account just for that. So I have one for coffee, one for photography. I post photography pictures on my personal account, more so to get feedback from people I know and love. The Pics by Jay Devon is it's public, so there's all sorts of people that follow that. I really just use social media to kind of gauge my level of photography, to kind of know, like, am I good at this?
Yeah.
Do people actually like this, or should I get another hobby like a bass guitar?
Bass guitar. Oh yeah, the band is coming back together. No, but it's funny because it's like doing market research in a way, because you get a bunch of likes on this photo that you put, and you're like, I didn't even think it was that great, but for some reason, a bunch of people see it and they're like, they really like the visuals of it, what it captures, or something like that. And maybe sometimes, for me, I miss certain aspects of it. I think that's what happens with the podcast too. Maybe some person was really interesting that I thought, but then no one like listens to it, and then there's some other people who like, maybe it's not a topic I'm super familiar with, but everyone's like, wow, that was really interesting. So it's just kind of cool to see other people's perceptions of your art, your work, what you do.
Yeah, and then the last thing I'll say, just about the photography that I've been doing, is the other thing I like is that so much about social media right now that people get annoyed with is it's very self-centered. A lot of people's Instagrams are just about themselves and their life, and that's fine. I mean, if you have your personal account, it's to share your life with your friends and family. But on this coffee one and my photography, it's not about me. You won't hardly see me on either one of these things. It's just about life in general. And so I think people find that refreshing, because it gets old. Yeah. Especially if you don't know and love the person. Why do I want to see constant selfies of somebody that I don't know, or hear about their life and what they did that day and pictures of their kids, and I don't know them? It's like, what attraction is there to me to follow you and to see your life, and I don't know who you are? But the photography that I take is not about me or anybody else. It's just life happening. It's buildings, flowers, products, the streets of Rome, the streets of New York, the streets of Fort Worth, Dallas, Tucson. It's just interesting moments in life.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all that with me. I wish Aaron was here. He would have had better questions than I do. I know that, because he's into photography as well. And he had a drone at one point. I don't know if you've done anything with that, but...
No, I actually almost bought a drone for Tanzania. I wanted to so bad. But I just kept finding conflicting research about what was legal and what I would have to do to fly it legally there. It's like, I'm not going to invest in a drone and have it taken away.
Yeah, because it would be.
As soon as I get there.
You're like, yeah, yoink.
Yeah. Because like what I found is you can fly a drone there, but you have to have a license. And then you had to go through different things to have a license. And it's even the same for Texas. Mm-hmm. Certain areas you have to find a license and obey the laws. And then I'm also terrified of investing money in something and then crashing it.
Yeah, or getting it shot down or something. Although I've never seen anybody shoot down a drone, but I'm sure there's something out there.
I have a friend that does, I forget what they call it. They go out in boats and fish for like stuff that's fallen down in lakes.
Oh, yeah.
He gets drones all the time.
Oh, really? I see him like with magnets or something?
Yeah. Magnet fishing, maybe is what it's called. But yeah, I can't imagine spending what people have to spend on a drone and then it's gone. Just like that.
Just flies off into the literal sunset.
Yes. Or get stuck on, like, people go downtown. They fly their drone and it loses connection and it lands on top of a building and you can't get to it. It's just gone. Wow. Somebody else is going to get to it.
Yeah. The window cleaner will get it.
Yeah.
Well, to wrap up this episode, I'd like everyone to just take a visual. And if you can imagine me standing there, probably 17 at the time, really, really sad, as I see some guy purchase Jermaine's bass guitar, just toss it in the literal back of his bed of his truck, and drive off. He was like, thanks! Boom! And he just drove off, and I was like, this guy he's not even going to take care of it. And I would have bought it, but I had no money at the time because I spent.
That would have been a great picture. This guy just chucking his bass guitar in the back of his truck. Snapshot right there.
Yep. Well, this has been Two Crazy Scoops Podcast with your hosts Ao and Antino. Stay tuned for the coffee break episode this week where we have a band that we're going to talk about. And it'll be interesting. So stay tuned. And thanks for joining us today.
Picks by Jay Devon.
Oh, yeah. Picks by Jay Devon. Coffee Bean Drip.
Coffee Drip Bean.
Coffee Drip Bean. You got any other ones you want to...
No, that's it. I'll have to join you another time. Maybe on one of the shorter podcasts or do your coffee breaks and talk a little bit more about coffee briefly.
Yeah, I'm down.
All right, thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
All righty.